The only thing that can stop the ringing is to answer the phone. But as Foundation agents soon learn, answering the phone is literally the last thing you want to do when SCP-145 is around. The secretary can hear screams and shouts in the background, and her mind is instantly filled with visions of the most horrendous sorts of torment.
Just a
she
prank.
thinks of innocent victims mowed down with machine gun fire.
Alright, this one's SCP-145, Answer This Call and Die by Dr. Bob. I don't know anything about this SCP. This one's brand new to me, so let's go watch.
It's a beautiful morning in Hollywood, and the agent is already chattering on his mobile phone as his limo pulls up to his office. He considers himself a power player in this town, where image is everything. So he's never not talking on his mobile. It gives
This
him
one's
an aura
about celebrities
of
and stuff?
something that's extremely important in a career where what people think you can do is often more important than what you can really do. He exits his limo, motioning
I know it's gonna be about
dismissively for the driver
phones,
to
but
take it around to the garage, but he never stops talking.
what's gonna happen to the phone is the question.
He says, barely noticing that he cuts off an arriving delivery man as he sweeps through the doors of his office building.
Okay.
If he wants you to be in his next movie, he's gonna have to treat you like the star that you are. Of course I said that. I've got your back.
This guy's very busy,
Who
huh?
loves you, babe? Hold on a sec, I have to take another call. The agent lowers his sunglasses to peer at the caller ID and smiles broadly. His favorite client is calling. He switches lines quickly with an expert flick of the thumb and immediately starts talking to this new client as if he never even broke conversation. The truth is that this agent is struggling to survive in the shark-eat-shark waters of Hollywood. He's losing clients left and right because he's actually not all that good at making deals. His fast talk is good at convincing naive young actors just arriving in town that he's the guy to know, the guy who has all the connections that can get them into the movies.
Is it taking more than 15%?
He's little more than a huckster. He's confident that's going to change very soon. The actor that he's speaking with right now is a hot commodity in this town, and he's sure that his career is about to go through the roof. And that means big bucks for the savvy agent who snatched him up right when he stepped off the bus into town. As he opens the door to his outer office, he barely even pays any mind to his secretary, who is studiously transcribing yesterday's meeting so that the agent can review them later. But she cringes as she catches sight of the agent. They say that you can judge a man's character better by the way that he treats his employees than by the way he treats his friends.
Oh, he's an asshole.
And if the agent's relationship with his secretary is any indication, this agent is not a very nice person at all. She's used to being berated for every little mistake, even when it's not her fault, to the point that she starts to sweat and shake as soon as she sees her tyrannical boss arrive. She heaves an audible sigh of relief as the agent passes by her without a word, but her feelings are premature. Before the agent enters his inner office, the client whom he's speaking with drops a bombshell. "What's that?" says the agent, stopping dead in his tracks and the color draining from his face. "You're leaving me? You're signing with a different agent? Babe, come on, you can't do this to me.
That's karma right there.
I was gonna make you a star. You can't do this to me." Furious, the agent screams as he throws his phone at the wall in impotent rage. The cell phone shatters into a million pieces, broken bits of casing and bent microchips littering the carpet.
Damn.
He turns toward his secretary.
That happened to his phone? He just threw it.
Points an accusatory finger at her. "What did you tell him? Did you tell him he could get a bigger percentage with another agent? You did, didn't you? I always tell you not to talk to the clients, but you can't keep your big mouth shut." The secretary tries to stammer out
taking
of
responsibility.
defense. She's too nervous. Before she can say anything, the agent turns away from her, still fuming. "I'm gonna take a coffee to get over this," he grouses, removing his extremely fashionable sunglasses and rubbing his forehead in frustration. "When I get back, that mess better be cleaned up. Oh, and make yourself useful for once and get me a replacement phone."
Damn.
The secretary doesn't waste any time in grabbing a dustpan and broom from the supply
Guy's
closet
straight up
and cleaning
asshole,
up the
bro.
destroyed cell phone. She knows her boss is in a terrible mood, and she's worried that he's not going to be much better when he returns. And then he's probably going to just yell at her some more. She needs to move fast because she knows the agent won't be gone long, and even though it's obviously completely ridiculous to expect that she'll be able to find and buy a new cell phone for him in the few minutes that he's gone, she's sure that he'll still take out his frustrations on her. Moments later, the agent returns, still grumbling to himself and clutching a hot coffee in his hands. He glowers at her over his sunglasses. "I see you're still sweeping up, huh? God, you're so slow. And did you even get me a new phone yet? I can't be expected to do my job if my clients can't reach me."
Bro, that's why
secretary opens her mouth to
you're
respond,
starting to be
but
broke,
before
man.
she can say
You'll
a
be
word,
throwing your phone
they're
away.
interrupted by the ringing of a telephone. Both agent and secretary turn to look at the source of the noise. There, on the edge of the secretary's desk, is an ancient, cordless telephone.
Ancient?
It doesn't look anything like the slick modern
That's
phones
ancient?
currently being sold in stores. It looks like it's a leftover from the early 2000s, so low-tech that it might as well be a rotary phone. The agent sneers. That's the best you could do? That thing is ancient. I'm not going to use a cordless phone. I said I wanted a cell phone. What kind of joke is this? The secretary doesn't know what to say. She didn't buy that phone.
Is that the
She's
SCP?
pretty sure, in fact, that she's never even seen it before. The maintenance staff must have
An
replaced her phone
ancient
overnight,
phone?
and she just didn't notice it because they haven't received any phone calls today. But
Okay,
wait a minute.
aka a
She
house
sees that her
phone?
regular black telephone is also still
I
on
guess
her
nobody
desk.
really
In
uses
this
a
case,
house phone
maybe the
anymore,
new phone
right?
is intended for her boss.
Like home phones
aren't you
and
gonna
stuff?
answer it?
Everybody got
Asked the
cell
agent
phones now.
pointedly as the telephone continues to ring. Yes, sir, says the secretary nervously. She grabs the phone and picks it up. She vaguely notes that something feels wrong as she hefts the phone in her hand. Her eyes randomly trail along the contours of the phone, noting that the seams of the phone seem to have been welded together. Huh, that's strange. But she doesn't have the time to ponder this for long, because she's got to answer the phone quickly while her boss glowers at her. She holds it to her ear as the agent watches, a grin on his face. He can't wait to hear how upset the client will be to find out that he's no longer getting the agent's personal attention. The secretary introduces herself and states the name of the talent agency. How can I help you? She asks. Her face quickly goes pale, and she starts to tremble,
What happened?
tears welling up in her eyes. What? Who is this? She cries. What's going on? Oh my God, are you, is that? The agent quirks an eyebrow skeptically. What's going on here? Is this some kind of prank? The voice on the other end of the phone is loud. He can't make out the words, but it almost sounds like someone is shouting hysterically. He can hear other loud noises coming over the wire, crashes
What's
and
going
shouts
on?
and a loud buzzing that almost sounds like the revving of a chainsaw. Meanwhile, what the secretary hears chills her to her core. The voice on the other end of the phone is shouting
Hey,
in panic. It's a
what's
woman,
going on?
but the secretary can barely hear her over the noises in the background. She heard the ominous clank of machinery and the crackle of fire. What is going on?
Somebody's getting tortured. Yep.
Cries the woman on the phone, her voice cracking as she descends into frantic sobs.
Please, you have to do something. You have to save us. Oh God, here they come. Help, please.
The secretary doesn't know what to think, but she can tell that the fear in the woman's voice is very real. The secretary can hear screams and shouts in the background, and her mind is instantly filled with visions of the most horrendous sorts
Imagine.
of torment.
It's just a
She
prank.
thinks of innocent victims mowed down with machine gun fire
Bro,
or
oh, man.
garroted with wire.
I'm calling it now, man. I don't know if this is gonna be it, but what if it's just a phone that pranks people? I'm calling it.
Or even subjected to the most insidious of medieval torture devices, like the rack or the breaking wheel. She imagines a whole facility dedicated to nothing but the senseless torture of innocent victims for no conceivable purpose, except, perhaps, the sick curiosity of the psychopathic torturers themselves. She shakes her head, desperately trying to clear the awful images from her mind. I'm sorry, where are you? Says the secretary, hurriedly. She blunders at the drawer on her desk, pulling it open and desperately searching for a pen and paper, hoping that the frightened woman on the other end of the phone might still have the presence of mind to tell her an address. Maybe, if she can figure out where this is happening, she can call 911 and have them send the police to investigate. From the sounds of things, they'll need to send some paramedics as well. And as much as she hates to think about it, they'll probably need to send some hearses too. Her fingers fall upon a pen and pull it from the drawer. She clamps the phone between her chin and shoulder and grabs a steno pad,
Let's
ready
see.
to scribble down any info that she can get.
Damn, the build-up
Her
on
boss
this
is
one's
staring at
crazy.
her, an amused
Like,
smirk across his face. He clearly
Come
thinks
on,
that this silly secretary
do some
is
actions.
just overreacting to nothing. But he can't hear the woman's voice. He can't know the depth of her terror. Please tell me where you are, begs the secretary. Her fingers are trembling so hard that the pen leaves a squiggly line on the paper. But the voice on the other end of the phone is barely coherent now, all her words degenerating into a long, drawn-out scream of absolute gargling terror. Okay, that's enough of that, says the agent, crossing his arms across his chin and
Damn,
regarding
this guy's
his shaking
ruthless.
secretary with deep and obvious skepticism. You think this impresses me? I've seen better acting in an elementary school play. Of course, he would immediately think this. This is Hollywood, after all, and everyone has Hollywood dreams of someday being in a movie. Every waiter and
I don't know, man. Even if you're like in a talent agency or acting agency, if you see your your assistant at like answering the phone and start crying, I don't think that's the first thing that's gonna come into your mind. Like, oh, this girl is just acting. What? That don't make sense.
bus driver by day is a frustrated actor by night. So, even though his secretary has never before expressed any interest in becoming a movie star, he of course suspects that this is an elaborate setup to convince him of her acting talents. She turns to look at him, and one look at her pale face is enough to convince him that she's not acting at all. Her face is ghostly white, and she's shaking like a leaf. She looks like she might simply faint right here from fright. Now the agent's smug annoyance turns to anger. Maybe his secretary isn't trying to fool him, but someone on the phone sure is. It must be some kind of prank call, and his secretary is simply the one person in Hollywood dumb enough to fall for it. "There's someone in trouble," cries the secretary, dropping the phone from her ear. "She says that they're being tortured. We need to get them help." The agent rolls his eyes. Of course it would be a prank call.
Yeah, this
Can't
guy's
believe that his
straight
stupid secretary
ass,
is
man.
actually taking this seriously. "Kid, you have a lot to learn about Hollywood." He snaps his fingers in her face. "It's clearly just some random loon trying to trick you. Hand over the phone, doll. I'll handle this." "It's not fake," babbles the secretary in a daze. "I'm sure of it. It's real." She hesitates, afraid to hand off the phone for reasons that not even she can articulate. The agent grunts in annoyance, snatching the phone from her hands. "Nothing's real here, kid. It's all just smoke and mirrors. Maybe if you weren't so stupid, you'd already have figured that out."
Damn, bro.
The secretary
Relax
turns
with
away,
the insults.
devastated by the insult, and buries her face in her hands. The agent, meanwhile, holds the phone to his ear. "Listen, punk, I don't know who you think you are, but I'm a big deal, and..." His words suddenly cut off, and the secretary turns as she hears the cardboard
He's gone.
coffee cup explode
Oh,
against the
no.
floor. The agent is nowhere to be seen. It's like he suddenly vanished in an instant. She blinks in surprise and confusion. It happened so suddenly that there's no way the agent stepped outside without her knowing. The dropped coffee cup on the floor serves as chilling proof that something extraordinary must have happened to him. The other thing left behind, sitting in an ever-expanding puddle of spilled coffee, is the mysterious telephone. She stares at it in disbelief, wondering how this strange phone can be responsible for this crazy situation. And then, even as she stares trying to make sense of what just happened, the phone immediately begins to ring anew.
I don't think you should answer.
Answering a ringing telephone is an almost instinctive response for most of us. But if anything, this situation shows why sometimes it might be a good idea to resist that urge. After all, you never know who might be on the other end. And while usually the
Exactly.
worst consequence of answering an unknown caller is that you'll be subjected to a lengthy and boring pitch for life insurance or solicitations for political donations, this story shows that there are some things much worse than a spam caller. Instead, you might be receiving a call from SCP-145.
145.
For all intents and purposes, SCP-145 appears to be a standard 2002 model cordless telephone handset of Alcatel brand on its standard issue charging base. The charging base has been defaced, the jack
Yeah,
inputs
that-
are sealed
that
with
thing
resin
is-
glue, and the power input to the device
thing's
has been
been-
torn out with a sharp tool. All labels and stickers have been torn off the phone, so its
Been
serial
seen-
number and
I've
production
seen
date
better
are unknown.
days, man.
None of this would make SCP-145 particularly notable. What makes SCP-145 unusual is that the phone rings constantly, defying all attempts to silence it. Neither removing the phone's battery nor disassembling the base has had any effect on stopping SCP-145's incessant ringing. The only thing that can stop the ringing is to answer the phone. But as Foundation agents soon learned, answering
throw
the
it
phone
away.
is literally the last thing you want to do when SCP-145 is around. Agents assigned to interacting with SCP-145 must always do so in pairs for very important safety reasons. Because if a person answers SCP-145 without being observed by another live human being,
What if
the
you just
person
don't
answering
answer?
the phone will instantly vanish. It is currently unknown how SCP-145
Wait, what was
causes
that?
it will instantly vanish without being observed by another live human being. The person answering the phone will instantly vanish. It is currently unknown how SCP-145 causes its victims to vanish. Video recordings of vanishings do not provide any clarity, only showing that the victim is there in one frame and gone in the
And gone.
next.
Okay.
If a person
okay.
answers the phone while being observed by another person, however, they will not vanish and can actually have a conversation of sorts with whoever is calling. The person on the other end of the phone varies from call to call, but is always one of several different female voices. This voice will beg for help in a panicked tone as the sounds of violence and torture play out in the background. The methods of torture, judging from words of the caller and the sounds in the background, have included branding, electrocution, laceration, and many other gruesome acts of violence. It's currently unknown where the voice is calling from or who is responsible for the horrible tortures happening
This is
at that
safe,
site.
right? Like
But
as long as you don't answer it, it should be a
conversations
safe
with the phone voice give a
SCP.
grisly clue as to the fate
Right?
of the people who vanish after answering SCP-145 while unsupervised. it appears that those vanished individuals are transported to the site from which the phone calls originate and added to the roster of victims undergoing torture at the hands of the unknown tormentors.
Okay, damn.
The callers appear to be non-automated and entirely sentient. Attempts to trace the call or track down the location of the tortured callers have proven unsuccessful thus far. Attempts to block the signal of the phone with the use of a Faraday cage have also been unsuccessful. Since SCP-145 is pretty much just a telephone, it has been given the object class Euclid. Since the location of SCP-145's victims is currently unknown, the only way to travel to it is to join the roster of victims by using SCP-145. Currently, the Foundation conducts research into SCP-145 by using teams of 3, 1 Class D staff, 1 Class 2/145 audio technician, and 1 Class 3 security staff. Only Class D staff are permitted to actually listen to SCP-145, as, without fail, unsupervised exposure to SCP-145's transmissions will cause the listener to vanish and join a growing list of SCP-145's torture victims. Listening to the pleas of SCP-145's victims is a harrowing experience for even the most jaded researchers.
Bro, is there like
the Foundation has been moved to try
is there a
several rescue
consequence
attempts, even when these might
if
not
you
have
don't
been
wanna,
the best
if you don't
advised
really
plans.
answer it?
As of
You
yet,
just let it ring.
none of these attempts have been successful. In one instance, the Class D personnel tasked with answering SCP-145 was issued a GPS locator device in hopes that it might give Foundation agents a clue about where the victims were being held. The GPS device was rendered inactive upon the victim's disappearance. On another occasion, a researcher equipped the Class D listener with both a GPS device and a military combat knife. Once again, the GPS device was rendered inactive, and subsequent calls by SCP-145 seemed to indicate that the missing Class D staff attempted and failed to use the knife in defense. A third rescue attempt involved equipping the Class D staff with both a Kevlar vest and a 9mm semi-automatic pistol.
Why are we
Subsequent listens
standing
to
one by one?
SCP-145
Why don't we send
revealed
like,
the sound of
I don't know, like
gunshots, followed
20
by
of them?
exclamations of pain from the vanished Class D staff person, indicating that perhaps the unknown tormentors had managed to disarm the Class D staff person and use his own weapon against him. In one final rescue attempt, researchers thought that possibly explosives could be used both to attack the mysterious tormentors and to reveal the location of the torture site. If nothing else, a massive mysterious explosion might appear on seismographic instruments or even local news reports. Researchers equipped a Class D staff person with 1 kilogram of C4 explosive concealed in a supply kit,
Put a
with the
C4 in the
explosive
guy?
attached to a remote
Okay.
trigger with a 30-second delay, triggered before interaction with SCP-145. The results of this experiment are currently classified, but involved multiple personnel
Well-
going missing, so suffice to say, it wasn't the rousing success that the Foundation staff had been hoping for. Following this incident, all further tests
That's
on
C4 in the guy. That is
SCP-145
crazy.
have been suspended. What is SCP-145, and why was it created? What cruel yet ingenious mind could devise something so cunning, only to be used for the senseless torment of random people? Foundation researchers still don't know the answer, only that SCP-145 might serve as yet more evidence for the boundless depths of human cruelty, if in fact, it was even created by humans. Now go and watch another entry from the files of Dr. Bob, like SCP-923.
What if it's made by the factory? Right? Anyway, this one's SCP-145 answer this call and die. Excuse me, by Dr. Bob. I feel like this one is easy to contain. Like this could be a safe SCP if you just like, I don't know, put it in a room where there's like soundproof the wall and stuff like that, so you don't hear the calls. I get it, you know. You have to make it interesting and stuff like that. You need to do like research and stuff like that to make it like an appealing SCP. But I feel like this one's not, it's not really dangerous if you just leave it alone. Just put it in a room, right? But yeah, this one's SCP-145, answer this call and die by Dr. Bob. Alright.